Ash from the Awakened State. So today I want to talk about the common ways and signs that you are completely blocking your manifestation. So one of the hugest components to manifesting is to really look at building up your awareness. So once we are starting to become aware of blocks, or basically looking at where we might be stopping ourselves from receiving, this is a critical moment where we can start to change the manifestation from being in a state of where it's just in our mind, and instead we start to work on cultivating it into the physical reality. So one thing I want to say before we dive in is realizing that manifestation is built on magnetism. It's built on knowing that there's a natural, automatic pull, flow, frequency, vibration happening where we are naturally magnetically pulled forward into the manifestation. When this isn't occurring, when this is not occurring correctly, that is when we automatically realize and know that we have stopped our manifestation. We are blocking it in some form or some way. And what is going on is what I like to call, we're in a manifestation plateau, basically. So these are the common signs and ways that we often show up in how we are manifesting, and how it easily shows us that we are blocking the manifestation. Okay, let's dive in. So what is number one? Number one is knowing that you are clearly deflecting. Seems kind of obvious. However, deflecting is really tricky. It's kind of bizarre because you're almost doing it unconsciously. It's where you're saying these affirmations, you're setting your intentions for your manifestation. But one thing that's happening is no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you just keep sabotaging it. And there's this deflection going on behind the scenes. And this deflection can look like refusing to get into action, lack of motivation, lack of doubt, like getting in a place where you're full of self-doubt and full of lack of self-confidence. And in this space, we're deflecting the manifestation. So for instance, maybe we're working on something and then someone compliments us, but we immediately just completely dismiss that compliment by criticizing ourselves. That's a deflection. We deflect when we are in a state of rejecting the manifestation. So we will notice this as a sign or a symbol when you notice that you're basically deflecting people, you're deflecting in your relationships through fighting, you're deflecting in a state of refusing to receive something, such as a compliment, such as money, such as anything. If you think about where are you refusing to receive, that is 9 times out of 10 a deflection. And that deflection is happening because you're refusing to accept your manifestation. So number 2 is repeated signs that you are recreating a central pattern in your life. So this is something where you are constantly fixating on a problem. You're constantly fixating on this problem. You're in this basic energetic plateau, really, and you keep recreating the same cycle over and over and over and over again. When we do this and we start to see that we're conscious that we keep doing it, what we're doing is we're definitely stuck in an imbalance within our chakras and definitely in our manifestation, because what is going on is we're stuck on the problem-based channel and we're refusing to step into the solution. There's a reason why we do this. It's because there's a secondary gain that needs to be met before we are able to transition into the manifestation. So we do this often when we are refusing to heal a vibration in our body. We often do this really repeatedly if we have a repeated cycle coming up and coming up and coming up. Like, I always attract the same men. I always do Like I always have this same money problem continuously showing up. Or like I always am trying to get into that action. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do it. And then I keep sabotaging. I keep putting it off. I keep waffling around. I keep being ridiculous. When I'm in that place, I'm in a pattern. That's a pattern that is showing you where you need to heal. And there's a root cause, a root association that needs to be healed in order for you to personally transcend that pattern. So what's number 3? Number 3 is truly looking at where do you feel that you have the most resistance? Where do you personally feel you have the most resistance in your life? Where are you constantly in a state of a problem-based energy? That will show you exactly where you are blocking a manifestation, because that dominant energy of resistance is your shadow self. It is your ego. And so basically, when we start to look at, well, I'm blocking this manifestation and I'm constantly in criticism. I'm constantly in this denial of self. I'm constantly in this state of deflection. This is showing you that this big ball of resistance, this is what the imbalance is. This is the central block that keeps occurring and keeps cycling and keeps repeating as a pattern in your life, because it's all dominated around that sense of basically your resistance patterns. So that resistant pattern that keeps appearing, such as you always get angry about a certain thing, or you always are upset about something particular, and then it keeps cycling back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's because there is something underneath the surface that is needing to be dealt with. That is another reason why we often have a sign or symbol showing us that we're blocking the manifestation. Another really common one is we're constantly complaining about it. We're constantly complaining about the manifestation. And well, it's just not here yet. It's just not here yet. Well, it's not here yet because you're repeating the same pattern, and you're repeating the same pattern, and then you're in the resistance of it. And then so it's dominating your life like a quicksand. And then you're complaining and you're in a state where you're completely in the problem and you cannot see the solution properly because you're in the problem-based energy. So one of the hugest ways we can look at this is starting to look at, well, where do I constantly complain? Where do I constantly criticize? Where do I constantly focus more on what is going wrong in my life instead of what is going right in my life? When we start to kind of turn the dials on what are the conversations we're saying to ourselves and looking at them from a lens of objective awareness, we can start to kind of change the way we're looking at things to show us, well, in the state of the manifestation, obviously there's some pent up energy going on behind the scenes. And the sign that I'm complaining about things and I'm in a state of resistance and I'm repeating the same pattern and I'm deflecting that pattern is all kind of pinpointing one thing, that there's something going on energetically that I'm refusing to see, that I need to do to essentially embody the manifestation. So when we start to look at it like this, another sign that we can often know that we're blocking our manifestation is to start to really look at where are we incredibly narrow-minded and only seeing one personal perception of this idea. And this one's a little bit trickier because we kind of do this unconsciously. So until we're kind of we start to question things, we're not fully aware that we're doing this. But I'm talking about when you're only looking at something from one lens of how it could be. So for instance, this could be as simple as, I want to meditate, but I only think I can do it in a certain way. I only think I can do it in this way where I have to be completely silent the entire time. I have to have no thoughts at all. And because I have to have no thoughts at all, now I'm going to sabotage it because my mind can't shut up. And obviously, I can't properly meditate because, my mind won't shut up. So, what am I going to do about that? And so, obviously, I'm clearly not doing manifestation right. And I'm clearly like fucking this up because obviously, if I'm not quiet all the time and I have to sit in silence, then this is just like a losing battle. And it's just ridiculous. When we come at it from that lens, I was only looking at meditation from, well, I have to sit in silence. I have to do it this way. I have to do it in this set way. What if that's just one limited perception of reality to choose from? And instead you realize that actually meditation can be a free-flowing experience for you, where you could go on a meditative walk, where you could go and meditate with some guided music, or if you have a really hard time meditating, then go get guided meditations and get like a freaking album of them and then do that. It's the same thing when you think about, you could only see this one certain way of looking at something, and instead you start to open your mind to different perceptions of how you could potentially see that problem. When we do this, you can easily tell that you're in a limited perception of reality. And this limited perception is only one idea that you are attaching yourself towards. So we can see this as a sign that you're blocking the manifestation because you're stubborn and you're not willing to look that there could be more possibilities. There could be more potentiality if I was willing to give up this one limited idea. So what I do is I call this the moving from the limited mind into the limitless mind, because what we're doing is we're moving away from limited consciousness into limitless consciousness, higher consciousness. So this is one of the hugest things that you have to look for when you feel that you are blocking your manifestation, is you have to look at, well, where am I getting stuck in a place where I am purely limiting myself in how I am seeing my world? How can I stay open to more possibility? How can I stay open and aware to more ways I can see this situation so I can personally pivot out of it? And when we start to do that, not only are we learning to work with the mind, but we're also learning to work with the body, because we're starting to change the conversation we're saying about ourselves to ourselves. And instead, we're choosing a different choice. We're choosing a different decision. And in that decision, we start to change the way we're perceiving the manifestation. And so we start to kind of basically worm our way out of moving from that limited perception in our minds, and we start to question and pivot out of it. One of the hugest shifts in manifestation is learning how to change your perspective and learning to take on new perspectives and take on new beliefs and take on new insight. Because a lot of the times when we are blocking our manifestation, the hugest sign that we are in a state where we are in a holding pattern is we are blocking our manifestation through our perception. And through that perception, that will ultimately show you where you are blocking your manifestation and why. And this is what I like to call really transcending the shadow. Because when we learn to transcend the shadow, we are starting to learn how to create... Oh my God, did I run out of video? I ran out of video. When we learn to start transcending the shadow, it really begins showing us how we can shift from a limited perspective into a limitless perspective. So I hope you enjoyed these signs that you may be potentially blocking your manifestation. If you have any questions at all about this topic, I love talking about this. I would love to hear your thoughts and questions in the comments. Subscribe for more tips with the bell. I'll see you guys next week.